don't know. So she literally just told me, she's like, yeah, we're going back to social distancing. I was like, okay, fine, I get it. Except housing just told me that I can bring Puma as a comfort animal, so I'm gonna have to go back home soon because I have to go get him.
What's a Puma?
It's a cat.
It's my cat.
Oh, yeah, you can live without that for sure.
I live completely alone and I have no friends up here. I need something here.
Well, I'd get, like a YouTube subscription or something before I'd snuggle up with a cat.
Okay, wait, whoa. I love cats.
They're
Cats are
terrible creatures.
amazing. You just haven't met the right cat, okay?
Well, I met plenty of nice cats. They're still terrible little bastards.
I mean, they're ornery, but I mean, I can live with that.
Only one way I take cat. Only one way I like to take cat, and that's with sweet and sour sauce.
John, I'm gonna have to request that you mute your mic.
Oh, that's fine. You can request it. Request denied.
You're a little sassy this morning. Are you okay?
Yeah, it's Wednesday and I'm here, so that's about it.
Does anybody remember? By the way, everybody, remember to submit your weekly report. I just submitted one. It says, I don't think we're going to get done.
Literally, yeah, I mean...
I'm in Oklahoma. Anybody remember where the robots are?
The robots?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
The robots.
Zach said we're doing motor review today. That's why I'm here.
We're gonna do some I'm gonna do some CNC labs after class.
Yeah, I've got the first 5 done. They're not terrible, but read the book. Don't assume you know the answer because apparently it was different in 1990 than it is today. Some of them are different.
How long did each one take you to read? And were the tests like 50 questions?
No, the tests range between 16 and 22 questions.
Oh, that's not bad.
And no, it doesn't. It's not that terrible.
I was thinking it was going to be like when, you guys didn't have that. Steve was on a vengeance path because someone, and we all know who it was, someone in our class cheated and didn't do the homework. So he was getting the homework done in like 2 minutes, and they were like 20-thing homeworks. So Steve instead went to the full homework, which was 80 questions. That was a bitch to do.
And yeah, that does not sound like fun.
It was like 50 to 80 questions each week, and
that's like having class with Tom. Tom isn't on a vengeance path, and his are 52 questions almost every time.
which I don't blame Steve for what he did. Like, he trusted us as a class, and someone betrayed that trust. That always sucks.
Guess what?
What?
We have to do some like actual schoolwork today.
You're late to talk, so it's we're not doing schoolwork. We're shooting the shit.
What type of schoolwork are we going to do?
I muted him.
I didn't know you could do that.
Are you gonna be nice now?
Yeah, I'm gonna be nice. Don't drown me again, Dad.
Let me just show you.
Man, that's got to be nice to be able to just shut me up.
It's handy.
His own wife doesn't have that pleasure.
No, no, she does not, but I'm sure she wish she could. I'm not generally a nice person. All right, so what is this?
Oh, that's just my attendance sheet. So in your shared folder, Electech 231 is this class. Motor Basics version Z. That's what I'm going to go through today. I would suggest you follow along. So you're going to have a quiz over this stuff. A lot of it's review. You know a lot of this already, but there is some math with like work and power and torque and all that stuff. It'll probably take us a class period or two to get through it, and then we'll take a quiz over this stuff. So obviously you're going to have access to this while you're taking the quiz, but don't count on the questions being like verbatim exactly what this PowerPoint says. Capiche?
Capiche.
All right.
Would you rather us, would it be wiser to follow along with you on Zoom or just do follow along, listen to you and follow along on the PowerPoint itself?
I'd keep Zoom up because we're gonna, but I would also, if you have a way to take notes, if that's the kind of person you are, because I'm gonna try to, see if I can do this. We'll pull the whiteboard up and do some examples.
Are you talking about that chicken scratch shit you do on Paint?
I'm gonna do the best I can, John.
I appreciate that, Zach, and I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thanks, John.
I sincerely mean that. These
No,
has
you
gone
don't.
better than I thought.
No, you don't. I won't read through this word for word. I'll cover some important stuff. Electric motors, obviously an important industry, right? That's why we work with them so much in class. Consume 64% of all electricity generated. And I don't know when this thing was written, but it's probably more than that today. There's some math review if you need to brush up on it.
Some math review.
What's a universal motor? Is it both?
Good question. Based on what you see here, Nathan, what do you think a universal motor is?
I'm assuming it's both AC and DC.
There you go.
Okay.
So motors can be classified according to what kind of current they use to create electromagnetism and spin the shaft. DC motors, you have permanent magnet, series wound, shunt wound, compound wound. We're not going to go into all the different size or types of how the motors are made. You guys should have seen that already.
So this is just 150 part 2.
What?
This looks a lot like 150.
Did you guys have the same PowerPoint in 150?
You taught it.
From me?
Yeah, it was very similar.
John didn't have something like this for 150.
I don't remember using this PowerPoint. I thought
No, it wasn't this
like-
exact one. That's what I'm saying, part 2.
Yeah, you're going to hear some stuff that we've already talked about.
As you said.
Okay, so what did you say universal motor can do, Nathan?
It takes both AC and DC power. I'm assuming not at the same time, but like it can take either.
It has the ability to, yes. Yeah, it wouldn't be using ACN. There's no point in using ACN DC at the same time, but it's capable of accepting either type.
Ooh, Smarties.
So AC motors then are divided into which two groups?
Induction and, oh, you got single phase and polyphase. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I'm basing this on what the PowerPoint says.
What were you gonna say, John? Induction motors and what other motor?
I don't remember the second type because most motors are induction.
Synchronous?
Was it synchronous?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is right there.
AC motors, single phase, polyphase. So single phase motors, you have induction, synchronous, polyphase, induction, synchronous, wound rotor, squirrel cage. All the same type, all the same operating principle. It's just whether or not, what do you think the difference is between single phase and polyphase? Polyphase is going to be three phase, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference? The only difference then in the way that they're made.
3 sets of windings.
Right.
Oh, there's
How
more
many
than
sets of windings? Correct?
Usually 9 sets of windings in most polyphase motors, but yeah, it's the sets of windings.
How many sets of windings and then how far apart they're spaced in degrees?
Is that? Never mind.
What?
Is that why when a motor is single phasing, it'll technically still work?
Yeah. It's not, you're not getting the magnetism in that. If you're missing a phase, you're missing however many windings pushing that magnetic field around in a circle, right?
Right.
The whole point of alternating current around 360 degrees is it so you're spinning a magnetic field. Correct?
Correct. Get more power.
Yeah, we just talked about this. Voltage applied to the stator causing a rotating magnetic field. I don't like how that's worded. It's the alternating current that's causing the rotating magnetic field, right?
Right.
Inducing a counter EMF, which stands for what?
Electromagnetic field.
Electromotive force.
Yeah.
Maybe it is electromotive force, but it's a fancy phrase for voltage. Induces a counter voltage in the rotor by the flux of the magnetic fields. Rotating field is developed in the windings, and the rotor tries to follow the magnetic field in the stator. The rotor cannot spin as fast as the stator because of the load, and the motor slips some. So how would you find that? How would you describe motor slip?
Power loss.
Sort of. Power loss in the, yeah, I guess you'd have some torque loss there. But slip is going to be, if you were perfectly efficient, if your rotor could spin just as fast as your stator, and could spin just as fast as a magnetic field, and you'd have zero slip, then you're going to spin at exactly the amount of RPMs that the motor is rated for. But because of slip, imagine it this way. If your motor's perfectly efficient, you're not going to have this. But if you have 3 phase, so how many degrees apart is each phase hitting?
It's 90,
Is it
isn't it?
90?
360 divided by 3, you get 3 phases.
Oh,
120 degrees apart.
120.
If you had three sets of windings, let's just pretend there are, right? So 120 degrees apart. Every once in a while, you're going to miss one of those one of those, I guess, peaks in current, right? Because it's not perfect. If you could have perfect efficiency, then you wouldn't have that motor slip. I guess that's the best way I could describe slip. So which part of the motor, everybody knows how to reverse the direction of a three-phase motor, correct?
Yes.
What is it?
How do you do that?
Reverse 1, 2 phases or leads, right?
Any two of the phases, you reverse them. So if there's a question that said, which part of the motor does that current reverse in? So like the physical component of the motor. Would it be the field wiring, the rotor, an increase in the armature current, or rewinding the permanent magnet?
Rewinding the permanent magnet.
No,
Rotor?
I mean if you want to reverse the current of a motor, you're not going to pull the windings out and reverse the
Yeah.
windings.
So wouldn't it just be rotor? 'Cause you couldn't change the phases as
Right.
you.
The current changes direction in the rotor. Make sense? How many horsepower? How many watts in 1 horsepower? It's a number you're probably gonna use if you get a job in industry. You're gonna need to know this. And if you ever need it, it's in the Uglies book. 1 horsepower equals how many watts? Somebody in this class ought to know this.
746.
Who said that?
Nathan,
Let's give Nathan a round of applause.
I cheated.
Oh. 1 horsepower is 746 watts. And horsepower is also an amount of work done over a period of time. So the same as watts. And we'll get more into that in a minute. There we start to talk about efficiency. Energy loss is in the form of heat. Okay.
25, 45 BQ.
Here's where we need to start remembering some things for math. Horsepower is a measure of how fast work is being done, and it is the amount of work being done over a given amount of time. Work is force times distance. So the work it takes to perform a task is measured in terms of the force exerted to move something and the distance it is moved. So if I said, something was 50 foot-pounds, what am I describing? Work, force times distance. And that would be feet times pounds. So if I needed to move, if I needed to lift this monster, let's say this is 2 pounds, and I need to lift it from the table 5 feet in the air. How much work is that?
10 work.
10 work, 10 foot-pounds. 2 pounds times 5 feet is 10 foot-pounds, correct?
Correct.
So if I did that in, if it took me 30 seconds to do that, how many horsepower would that be?
Would it be the 7,400?
No, it's just 10 foot-pounds per minute. So foot pound, I didn't give you that per minute part, but if horsepower is, or wattage is the amount of work being done in a given time, and I told you it was half a minute, you would divide 10 foot-pounds divided by a half, would be 20 watts. 20
Yeah.
20 watts, and then if you wanted horsepower,
Multiply it.
divide that by 746.
Why would we divide it? Confused.
Because you're looking for, if one
Oh,
horsepower.
you're looking for horsepower.
Well, we'll get into, okay, there's another number that you need. Okay?
All right.
If I was describing watts, you would use 746.
Yeah.
If we're trying to go straight from work, here, we'll talk about that in a minute. What is the work required to lift a 300-pound weight from the ground to a 5-foot-high platform? Oh, there's the answer, 1,500 foot-pounds.
Yeah.
Powerful motor can be this is all common sense. So here's what I was getting at. 1 horsepower is how many watts?
746.
746 watts. Is also defined as 3,300 foot-pounds of work in 1 minute. Remember this number. See how I did that?
Circle 33,000. That's
Yeah.
pretty slick.
Did you see that?
I've seen that.
Oh man, it doesn't go away.
Do you even know what you're doing over there?
No, I'm just playing.
And you mute me when I do it.
So using the example from before, if you wanted to lift 300-pound weight, 5-foot platform, so we're gonna lift 300 pounds of weight, 5 feet in the air in 1 second. How many foot-pounds per second would that take?
1,500.
Sure about that?
Is it per minute? So we divide it by 60?
No, because it says in 1 second, how many foot-pounds per second would you need take? So wouldn't that just be 1,500?
Times 60?
You do times 60.
Yeah, just be 1,500. Who's laughing?
Brady?
Brady. So if what's the formula for horsepower? Here we go, John. This is my chicken scratch.
Oh yeah, I like it. That looks
How many?
good.
How many? What's the number? I just circled it.
33,000 pounds of work in 1 minute.
Yes.
A pound foot would be. Excuse you. Excuse you.
Thank you.
So how many pound feet do we have here? In the question.
What do you mean? Like pound feet?
15, we only
1,500.
have 1,500.
Right. You have 1,500 pound feet. And if we're doing that in 1 second, how many horsepower would that be?
Times 60.
Or is it? Because it's per second. Do we divide it?
Well, if this is 1 second,
Oh, that's 1 second. You mean
that's what the question is saying. 1,500 pound feet per 1 second. So how many pound feet per minute would that be?
1,500 times 60.
90,000.
90,000.
That'd be 90,000, wouldn't it?
That's what I said.
Yeah. Because 60 times 1,500 would be
60
90.
times 1,500.
Let's do 6 times 15. Add the zeros.
Yeah.
So you get 2.7272727 repeating horsepowers.
Power. Okay, but let's walk through it for everybody.
All right.
60 times 1,500.
You looking for an answer?
Yeah.
90K.
Okay. 90,000.
Yes.
And if horsepower is 33,000, how do we then find how many horsepower that is?
Divide.
Divide which one by which one?
Divide 90,000 by 33,000.
All right, so 90,000 divided by 33,000. And then what do we get for horsepower, Nathan?
2.727 repeating.
Make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Does to me.
An LB.
That same question, how many seconds would it take? Whoops. Crap, I just showed you. How many seconds would it take to lift the weight?
2.7.
But how would you get that?
Using
100
100
foot-pounds per second.
Oh,
Using a 1-horse motor.
would we?
yeah. It'd be
Taking that
2.7.
33,000, which if you, on that same slide, it tells you
Yeah.
500 foot-pounds per second. So 1,500 divided by 550 is 2.7 seconds. So if you had a 1-horsepower motor trying to do the work of lifting that much weight, how many seconds would it take? 2.7. An elevator is used to move 20 passengers every minute from the first floor of a department store to the second. The second floor is located 25 feet above the first floor. The average passengers, not mass, but weight, is 175 pounds. Determine the horsepower requirement of the elevator in order to move this number of passengers in this amount of time. Assume direct drive motor.
All right, give me like an hour, and I'll have your answer.
An hour? It's right there in front of you.
You're gonna do that without a gearbox?
We're just making assumptions, John. We'll get
They're
into
insane.
gearboxes and shaft radius and stuff here in a little bit.
Oh, do we have to?
We will.
Yeah.
My day will come.
3,500 pounds times 25 feet is 87,500 foot-pounds.
No way I'm playing.
Divided by 33,000 pound-foot per minute, which is horsepower, and you get 2.65 horsepower. Horsepower depends on the speed of the shaft and how much force it exerts on the work. Why would that part matter? Or how would you affect that?
With the load?
The speed of the shaft is going to be dependent on basically the distance of the magnetic field away from the shaft and how many times per second we're spinning, so 60 times per second. And how much force it exerts on the work. Bigger the windings, bigger the motor, is going to create a stronger magnetic field, correct?
Hey, kids. Shh.
Yes.
Okay. Shaft speed measured in revolutions per minute. Most electric motors between 500 and 3,600 RPMs. So if we're using a motor to not do rotational work like a drill, but if we're using it on like a conveyor or a winch, you're pulling things in a straight line, which creates some math, right? You're using a round motor shaft to move something in a straight line. How could you affect the speed of that movement?
Getting a bigger motor.
Not necessarily a bigger motor, yeah.
Bigger windings.
Rotations per minute.
Yes. What else?
Your ratio.
So if I have a motor shaft, moving a let's say it's like a belt, conveyor belt, and I want to use the same motor to move it quicker.
Higher voltage.
If I put a pulley or a bigger, extended the size of the shaft, would that at the same speed make the belt move quicker?
Yes, because it'd be more revolutions.
It'd be the same amount of revolutions, but a bigger circumference,
Right.
right? So
This is where I always, isn't it the bigger the pulley, the slower to go? Or is it the opposite?
think of it this way. In one revolution, if you have the same motor, same speed, in one revolution, you're going to move the distance of
The radius, pretty much.
the circumference. In one revolution, it'd be the
Oh,
distance
yeah.
of the circumference, right?
Yeah.
The radius of this is 1 inch. And the radius of this is 3 inches. What would the circumference be?
That pi r squared, is that?
Yeah.
2 pi r.
Yeah, I got mine.
So the
Calculator
circumference of
out.
this would be 6.28, right?
Yeah.
circumference of this would be 6 times 3.14. So it'd be 18.84.
Right.
Same motor, same speed, 1 revolution gives you 6.28 inches of distance traveled. With a bigger circumference or a pulley on the end of that shaft, you would have 18.84 inches of travel. Make sense?
Yes.
Mhm.
Somebody explain torque to me. Is it a force? Is it a speed? Is it
Didn't it work?
It's a force.
it's a force, a rotational force. So if I move something, if I move this can straight up into the air, linear force, right?
Yeah.
If I take this and rotate it, that's torque.
Mm-hmm.
I have this screwdriver, and I twist it with the same amount of force against my finger at this point, and against my finger at this point. Which one has more torque?
The
Yep.
first point. With that one? Nope.
This one. So it all
Yeah.
depends on distance away from the shaft when you're dealing with motors. But I call it a rotational force. You guys are probably going to want to know that torque is the twisting force. Okay?
Okay.
Mm,
So distance away from the shaft. If I need to move the same amount of weight with a motor, and the motor is further away, or the weight is further away from the shaft, does that motor need to create more torque or less torque?
less.
It needs to create more torque. The further away from the shaft you get, the more torque you need, right?
My bad. Yeah. But wouldn't it? Oh, you're saying it needs more, not creates more.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Because remember, it's only doing the work at the location of the shaft.
Right.
So if this is my shaft, it's going to do the same amount of work in this area, but to move, think of it this way: if this is 10 pounds, and I want to lift it up in the air closer to my body, is a lot easier than holding it all the way out here and lifting it up, right? It's leverage.
Yes.
I have to
Like
do
a
more.
crowbar.
Yeah, exactly. So I need more torque or rotational force to lift it further away from my body. So a motor is lifting a 10-pound weight a distance of a foot away from the shaft, is exerting 10 pound-feet of torque. If you double the size of the pulley, the motor must exert 20 pound-feet of torque. What do you think that does to the current in the motor?
Increases it.
Increase.
Yeah. So what do you think happens to the heat in the motor?
Increase.
Increases.
I would say the heat is on.
The heat. And here's another example. 1 inch radius pulley versus so 2 inches in diameter. 100 ounces per inch. We talked about this already. Larger motors produce more torque because greater distance between the shaft and the repelling attracting magnetic poles. Something there for Dirty Cody, whoever that is. Larger motors have larger windings, carry more current, produce stronger magnetic fields, and more torque. How much torque in pound-feet would it take to break 20-pound fishing line if the reel was 2 inches in diameter?
£3.
So you've got a reel, and you've got fishing line, and to break it, 20 pounds. So if we had a 20-pound fish on this line,
Would it be 3.2?
close.
Well, the way I worked it as I did 20 times 1/6, right? Wouldn't that work?
Why the 1/6?
Because it'd be 2 divided by 12. Would it not?
No. Remember, we're with torque, so the rotational force is what we're concerned with.
Oh, okay.
So we need to take into account the distance, the radius here. So this is 1 inch, right?
So it.
So is it 20 times 6.2 or 5?
So we're a pound away, or an inch away from the middle. How many feet is that?
112.
112. So we're looking for pound feet. So it'd be 20 pounds divided by
112.
112, or 20 over 12.
Let me look it up.
It's 1.67.
1 point.
Wait. Okay, that's weird.
The reel had a direct drive crank handle 4 inches long. How many pounds of force would have to be exerted on it to break the 20-pound line?
So 2 would it be the answer I just gave, the 3.2? Because
Huh?
it'd be, wouldn't this time it'd be 2 divided by 12 gives you 1.66 times 20, so 3.33.
Four divided by 12. times 20. Or 20 divided by 4 divided by 12.
Well, because if that's the diameter, we want the radius, which would be 2, and then it'd be 2 divided by 12, right?
Well, but
You're right.
that's for torque. I don't like this question because it's changing. It's changing from torque to how many pounds of force. So here you're saying how many pounds of force would you have to push on that?
Right, they didn't change the size of the wheel, guys. They added a 4-inch handle.
Right.
Oh,
So now you've got this 4-inch handle. So what is the force you need to apply here in order to break the 20-pound line? It's just 20 divided by 4.
5.
Yeah. So remember, with more distance, the more torque. It's kind of like having a lever. You would need more torque at the shaft. You're providing more torque with the lever. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. You won't see one like that on the quiz. Okay, a motor turning 1750 revolutions per minute at the shaft exerts 3 pound-feet of torque on a pulley with a diameter of 2 feet. How much horsepower is it producing? How should we approach this? What is the unit for horsepower?
Foot pounds.
So there's 1 horsepower.
Foot pounds is work.
All right.
For horsepower, it's just horsepower, right? Or is it watts?
Horsepower is work done in an amount of time, right?
Okay.
And our time is revolutions per minute.
Right. First, we need to know how whoops. We back? Let's write a couple of things down. What did we say? Whoops. How come I can't? There we go. So horsepower is work per time. So foot pounds per minute. And how many, can we figure out how many feet per minute we're moving?
You could use the circumference of the pulley to find the
Yep.
That
So you've got the diameter is 2 feet. So what's the radius is 1. So what's the circumference?
6.28.
6.28 feet.
Yeah. What
Anybody
are we looking at?
What? I wonder when somebody was going to say something.
I thought
First, I
maybe,
thought you were doing a motor winding for some reason.
I thought he finally broke.
I'm looking up equations, so I didn't even see
Oh,
what
okay.
I was doing. Yeah, because RP because so the equation I'm looking up, it says RPM is 1 rads. It's weird. Total.
It's just 1 revolution per minute, isn't it?
Right,
We have
so how many feet per minute?
50. What? We have 1750 foot-pounds.
1750 revolutions per minute. Each revolution, you're covering 6.28 feet, right?
Yes.
So wouldn't we just take 6.28 times 1750?
Right. And that would be our horsepower.
That gives you so 1750 times 6.28. $10,990. So we have a distance.
We also have we also have the weight, which is 1.5, right?
Yeah. So basically we have a distance per minute, and we need
2
to
feet.
know work is a force. Work is a force times a distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Force times distance. We have a distance, and we're doing that work in 1 minute. So we're getting close to horsepower. The force, how are we going to find the force? We need to know the force being applied to the circumference here, right? You just said it.
Wouldn't it be 3 divided by 2?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got 3 pounds of force that's 2 feet away from the middle. So the torque is going to be 3 divided by 2, so it'd be 1.5.
So then that 10,999 0 divided by, times 1.5, 16,485 divided by, would it be this 1750?
Is that force times distance? We've got what we need already.
Oh yeah, that was the force
The
times,
the force is 1.5. The distance is 10,990.
and that total comes out to 1648.5.
Everybody follow that? So force is 1.5. Pounds. The distance is 10,990 feet. So 1.5 times 10,990 is what is it, Nathan? 16.
16, and then 485.
485
foot-pounds.
crap. Foot-pounds. I hate this.
No, it looks great, man.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, it doesn't.
So that gives us work. How do we know how many minutes it is?
Would it just be the 1750?
It's 1 minute,
Oh, it's 1. Wow.
right? Because we're working with revolutions per minute.
So that's the number right there.
Right. So distance is revolutions per minute times the circumference. So this is really 10,990 feet per minute. You end up with pound feet per minute, which is horsepower. So this is your answer, 16,485.
Oh,
Well, it's not. How many horsepower is in one, or how many feet, pounds per minute in 1 horsepower?
33,000.
So you're going to take that number divided by 33,000.
you got like half a horsepower. We got half a horse.
Yeah, half horse.
Actually, I'm pretty sure horses are like 2 horsepower, which is weird to me.
When it be judged on the horse?
I guess.
So, like, I assume one breed is bigger than the other. It's like saying a German Shepherd and Chihuahua exert the most, same amount of force.
It is capable. Most horses are capable of 14.9 horsepower.
Will you just Google it?
Yep.
No, Johnny got that right off the top of his head.
Well, you know, it's Oklahoma, so you never know what's floating around up there.
All right. We'll call it quits with that slide today. And next week we'll get into some more examples. We'll talk about efficiency and heat. And see if we can't get through this thing next week. I doubt we will, but maybe we will. We're about halfway there.
Good deal.
10-4?
Quite a lot.
Yeah, Aaron, say something. Say something cool.
Aaron, say something.
No,
That was awesome.
thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
You're the man, Aaron.
Bye,
Right.
everyone.
Any questions before we
Yeah.
all?
Did you want more on that line diagram, or is that sufficient?
No, that's fine. That looks good.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right.
All right then.
All right. Well, you know, I'm not trying to half-ass anything. I mean, I could make it a little bit nicer yet.
I
Nope.
just realized I've been muted that whole time.
What?
I just realized I've been muted the whole time.
Thanks for joining us, Don.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys later.
See ya.